I've never told you this full story. Today, I'm going to tell you about the time that I was robbed at gunpoint on my travels. My name is Mr Henderson. I'm the author of this book, and I run a business that helps millionaires and multimillionaires legally move overseas to reduce their taxes and increase their freedom. And I was in a pretty tax-friendly country that at the time did offer a certain soft freedom. It was the country of Nicaragua. This is back in 2014. And it turned out to be the place where I felt less safe than any other. Now, this is a story that takes place in the capital city of Managua. There's one thing you should know about Central America, and that is you generally don't want to be spending time in the capital city. You can spend time in Panama City, Panama. And if you consider Mexico part of Central America, you can spend time in Mexico City. There's plenty of good neighborhoods there. But in between, you generally don't want to be in the capital cities. And the capital cities don't really have that much to offer. I suppose El Salvador's cleaned up its act since I was last there in 2015. Tegucigalpa, Honduras is a little bit better. But, Guatemala City, Tegucigalpa, San Jose, Costa Rica is pretty boring considering how beautiful the country is. And Nicaragua has some beautiful parts. I went all over Nicaragua for a period of maybe 10 days or so in early 2014. I went up to the northern coast in areas like Leon and Chinandega, which is this kind of up-and-coming surf spot. It gets really hot up there. I went to the colonial town of Granada, which some people retire to. And I went down to what I think is the nicest part on the Costa Rican border, on the area near San Juan del Sur, which is a little bit cooler and it's a beautiful area. And it's attracted a lot of expats. However, I think for most of my stay, I chose to be based in Managua because, what I do here is around learning more how the government works and learning about bureaucracy and going and taking meetings with people. And back then we didn't have the level of service that we did. Back then, Nomad Capitalist was largely just a website. We didn't even have a YouTube channel. It was just me writing this dispatch as I traveled all over the world. And so I spent most of my time in Managua. I stayed in a decent hotel, like one of those old courtyard-style hotels where the rooms all go around a nice pool. I actually met a girl that for a number of years was actually a good friend of mine. She came up to me at the pool. I thought, wow, I'm off to a good start, Beautiful women are coming up to me at the pool. And so one day, I wanted to experience authentic Nicaragua. And I believe that's the day I went down to the colonial town of Granada. I took a bus. Everyone said, why are you taking a bus? Today I wouldn't take a bus. But back then, there was still a novelty to, I want to see how everybody lives. And, I'll fend for myself. And so I went down in the morning. I got on the bus, went down to Granada, walked around. Never really felt like that unsafe. Got back on the bus, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And bus drops off at 5:30. So it's February. Sun sets relatively early in Nicaragua that time of year. But I'm like, it's, I don't know, a mile, kilometer and a half to walk back. Doesn't look that bad around here. Okay, it's a emerging world country bus station. I'll just meander through here. There's a hotel, there's a restaurant along the way. I'm just checking it out. I like to walk. And so I didn't have any problems walking home. People were like, why would you do that walk? I've done that all over the world. I remember when I did a big push through Southeast Asia before this. I would go out and have a drink or two in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, or somewhere like that, and walk home at 1 a.m. And again, I didn't stay in the luxury that I do now. I enjoyed more basic accommodations back then, and so it wasn't always like in the absolute best neighborhood where I would stay when I was starting out, and I never had a problem. So I figured, hey, it's 5:30, the sun is out, I can walk in Managua. I'll have my wits about me, and I'm not carrying anything really, and I'll walk back. And so I got back pretty much all the way to the hotel. And next to the hotel, there's this convenience store. I don't know what the brand was. And you kind of walk into this American-style mini parking lot, and there's these big white walls around the convenience store. So I walk in, I get a drink or something, and I come back out. And so you're walking, got the walls on the edge of the parking lot, and you're kind of walking through where the cars come in. And I turn left to go, and it must be 50 meters. If I'm here, there's like one building next to this convenience store on the other side of the wall, and there's a guard sitting in front of that building. And then there's a street, and you turn left in the street, and there's like one house there, and then you're at the hotel. You're right there. You could get there in 60 to 90 seconds. And I walk out, and it's like, I'm there. I made it. I'm almost all the way back. And I turn on, so I'm kind of, I don't remember exactly what happened, but, probably not paying 100% attention. And I see this motorcycle coming by. And there's two guys in the motorcycle. And the motorcycle stops, and this guy gets off the back, and he's got his gun out. And he points the gun in my face. I don't remember what he's saying. I've spoken varying levels of Spanish over the years based on, time I'm spending in Spanish-speaking countries. I understand a lot. I can speak okay. I forget what he said. I guess it was just, give me your stuff, give me your wallet. And it was the craziest experience. This is the kind of thing, it's interesting because all the fake tough guys online who are like, I'd be tough. I'd punch him in the nose. I didn't punch him in the nose, but I did something that took some cojones. Because I had this brand new wallet from Xenia, which Xenia kind of wanted a favor for a while, but now it's quiet luxury, now it's coming back. But I got this Xenia wallet, and it was the most beautiful little card holder. It wasn't a wallet, it was like a card holder, but it opened in the middle like this. And you could put the cash. I like, the benefit of living in the emerging world. You carry cash, people still want cash. It's not that there's not a war on cash in Nicaragua or places like that. And so you could put, a couple cards on each side, and then it opened up and you could put cash. But I remember I had just gotten one for my friend. I'm like, this is such a great card holder. I'm going to get one for my friend for Christmas. And they're like, oh, we discontinued that. Now they're all seamed. Now they're all closed at both ends. You can only stick the cash in the top and it comes out. It's not nice. And so the guy comes up to me and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I have this Xenia card holder that it's like they don't make them like this anymore. And I don't think in my mind, I think I told him like, oh, sorry, I can't give you the wallet. Like you don't understand. But I'm thinking to myself like, you don't understand, dude. Like, this is the last of the Xenia wallets that, like, they open up in the middle. I can't, man. I can't, like, they don't make them anymore. You got don't quiet luxury? Like, I guess it should have been like, okay, here, take the cards, take the cash, whatever. But leave me the wallet. I didn't think, perhaps, I don't know that I was thinking that much, but I didn't think in the moment that he would be so open to such a compromise. Like, you don't want the wallet itself. You're just gonna dump it into a bin somewhere. Like you just want the money. But I kind of fumbled around for a while. I'm like, And I remember he's got the gun on my face. He's got the helmet on. And finally, I remember he reached in. I think it was the right pocket. He reached into my right pocket, and I had a phone. And I think this is the phone because like the year before, I had like a great phone. I don't think I had iPhones back then, but I had a great phone, and I lost it in a taxi in Vietnam. And I was so irritated. I'm like, I'm not getting an expensive phone. I'm going to get a cheap phone. And this is probably, 5-6 months later, I still have the cheap phone. And so the guy reaches in my pocket, grabs the cheap phone, gets on the back of his motorcycle, and drives away, and that was it. And in looking back, I realized, like you wouldn't recommend that anybody do that. There must be some place to find, vintage wallets or something that open in the middle. You could have just done that. But it was funny because I was kind of standing there, kind of right on the edge of the wall of the convenience store, this very nicely, freshly painted white wall, and then this kind of a little bit dingier building next door where there's a guy sitting kind of on this patio like a security guard. And I realized, you think that those people, oh, the guy's going to speak up. No. That guy's going to sit on that patio all the time. He's not going to speak up for anybody else who's in trouble because, like, they know where to find him. The guy comes, I'll be gone, but the security guy will still be sitting on the patio of this building next door, so he's not going to get involved. What's he going to do? By the way, that kind of taught me something about, what I believe in, and it kind of reinforced for me one of many things in life that has that, like, we can have close relationships, but most of us only have a few close friends that really care. I had a friend recently who called me. He lives far away, and we didn't always talk that often, but he had something bad happen in his life, and he's like, you're my first call, because I know you care. Most of us don't have that many people in our life who actually, in a moment like that, will drop everything and come and care. And, the security guard or anybody around certainly wasn't going to do anything about it. And that's kind of driven, not in an angry way, but just that's kind of affected my philosophy on life and like this idea of society. But anyway, so the guy takes my phone, he gets in the motorcycle, he drives away. I don't remember if I went to look after him or something, like where's he going? But they just zipped away. And I remember kind of briskly walking back the remainder of the way to my hotel and walking in, and there's my new friend at the pool. And by this point it's quickly become dark. So it went from kind of got to the convenience store at dusk, and then like in this 5 minutes of this, hey, like by the time you get back to the hotel, it's just dark. And I just went back and I'm like, I was just robbed. And I mean, what do you do about that? Here's the interesting thing. I mean, that happens to people now in London for their watches. I mean, violent, like people come to you with knives in London, like, give me your Rolex. You can't wear a Rolex in London anymore. I was in Barcelona a couple of years ago for New Year's, like, leave the watch in the safe. You can't wear a watch. Now, maybe they don't use knives there. They just try and take it from you. But it's like, what do you do anywhere? And it really kind of spoke to, what was at that point kind of a budding life philosophy of mine that, I mean, we are on our own. And for me, I never, as a lifelong, libertarian, I never really expected the government to help. And now I realize, like, yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to call the police in Managua, Nicaragua? Like, what are they going to do? But you realize, like, that's kind of how it works everywhere. There's just no veneer to it in Nicaragua, whereas in the U.S., people are like, I'm going to call the police. Like, I was reading an article about stolen phones in the U.K. and how they all get shipped to Algeria now. And like people in the UK are like, I found it on Find My. Go to the house and kick the door in and get the phone. And the police are like, no, we have to get a warrant. And it really kind of instructed me in a way about why. I mean, I would go back to Nicaragua again. I don't really have any business to go back to Nicaragua, but I mean, I wouldn't be. I'm not so scarred. I would never go back. But it really kind of instructed me about this life philosophy that we talk about, which is, like, you don't need the patina. You don't need the pretending. You don't need, like the police to pretend to care, but don't do anything. I mean, how long has it been since, like, cities in California, if your car gets stolen, like, yeah, just go online and file a report. We're busy. I mean, at least in Nicaragua, people in the informal economy, I'm sure, aren't paying taxes. If you move there, we did have a few clients who wanted to move there over the years. There's no tax on your foreign income. So it's like, at least they don't have the audacity to lie to you and be like, oh, we're taking all of your money to serve you, and then we don't serve you, and we let people put knives into your gut and threaten to take your Rolex, and then the police don't do anything to stop it. That was kind of the beginning of kind of what guided my transition from being very American-minded to realizing, yeah, there's a whole different way that most of the world works. And quite frankly, I'd rather be able to, like, just live my life and be largely left alone by the government and left alone by the tax man. And I learned a very, very valuable lesson. Like, don't go to Central American capital cities and walk from bus stations to hotels. And so today, I mean, I would stay in a nicer hotel. I mean, cities like this are not known for top tier. I don't know if there's a Ritz-Carlton Managua, but I would stay somewhere a little bit nicer. And, I'd hire a car service. I remember the car service from San Juan del Sur to Managua to go back and fly out was like $100. And I'm like, it's a little rich for my blood back. Like, now I just pay the $100. But generally speaking, I mean, the bus was fine. And it's funny because I got to learn a lot. And I really get to see, like, people would bring their animals on, and it was very interesting to see early on. I'm glad I did that. The walking is the issue. And so what's interesting is if you look at the crime statistics of Nicaragua, I mean, they are higher than a lot of countries, and yet, the United States is 129 on one of the crime indexes for like violent crime. And I guess this is violent crime, having a gun in your face. And yet, had I not taken that one walk, potentially this never would have happened. Yeah, so that's the takeaway. The takeaway is don't go to Central American capital cities. The other issue, or the other place where I was told this, was in Johannesburg, South Africa, where I told the car service, like, hey, just drop me off. Don't make a U-turn. I'll just cross the street to go to the hotel. The guy's like, no. Now, I don't know why I was staying in the CBD of Johannesburg once. I think that was another dumb move a year or two later. But he's like, no. In the CBD, we're dropping you off right at the hotel door. So there are a handful of cities. I think Johannesburg, yeah. I mean, there's a feeling that it's not that safe there. And yet I walked around during the day, no problems. I mean, Central American capital cities, by and large, San Salvador, maybe the new exception, but like, never felt that great. Didn't feel that great in San Salvador 10 years ago. That never changed my view of wanting to travel. It, just made me realize, like, yeah, there's a data point in that it's not working. And some people ask, like, oh, what's safe? I mean, there's millionaires who live in Managua. And by the way, not all of them are Nicaraguan. I met two guys there who were Westerners, very, very wealthy guys, send their kids to school, never had these problems. Yeah, they just didn't walk from bus stations. They didn't walk to convenience stores. And so, yeah, that really shaped my view on what is safe and what isn't safe. And I realized, like, there's parts of Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from. My parents never wanted me to go downtown. So what do we do when we turn 16? Like, we'd get in the car and we'd drive downtown. And honestly, one of the most unsafe feeling places that I've ever been was downtown Cleveland, Ohio, circa early 2000s. Certainly felt much more unsafe than anywhere in Asia, anywhere in Europe that I've been. And everywhere else I've ever been is safe. And so, that could happen to you anywhere. It happened to me in Managua. Not much to do in Managua for you. And I don't think that kind of thing should stop you. But I don't know what ever happened to that wallet, by the way. If anyone has a tip, leave a comment how I can get it. You gotta have it opens. That's the time I was robbed at gunpoint, and never since.